The Court-Appointed Special Advocates program that has been initiated 35 years ago by the National CASA Association has proven to be just a significant milestone for children when we're looking for permanency. And the permanency obviously is something that has come about because these children have been placed into foster care due to abuse and neglect by their caregivers. So the importance of a Court-Appointed Special Advocates program for any community and is to change the outcomes for children. Their future doesn't need to look bleak. Their future is one where when they look out in front of them, that they see themselves becoming a doctor, they see themselves going to a college.
So most of the time I would say that my impact is so varied. It depends on the case. One time it might be to put my arm around a kid going into court. Another time it just might be, hey, you know what? I called that doctor and they're gonna see you. Another time it could have been, I don't know if we're going to be able to go ahead as quickly as what we planned, but we're still gonna keep working. So those are the kinds of things, it's very varied and it's very challenging, but it certainly is individual to the case that I'm working on. And sometimes in some of my cases, I've had more than one child. So it becomes individual to the child as well as to the case. And those are the kinds of things that a CASA needs to know as they go into the program, that it is a varied program. It is not a cookie cutter program in any way, shape, or form.
Since I became a volunteer, I have found that my life has completion. My work with children, especially abused and neglected children, brings to me more of a satisfaction than I had ever imagined I could have.
My case lasted from they were 11 and 12 years old, and they are now going to be 20 and 21. And it was approximately 2 to 3 years ago when my case ended and they had permanency. And we just stayed very close, and I consider them part of my family. And we're very close. In fact, I just went to the older son's, Jalen. I went to his baptism of his son, Mason. And I've kept in contact with Marcus, is the other brother. And I just feel it's very important that they feel needed and wanted. Well, the special instance I remember was when I went to visit Jalen, and he was upset because he felt he wasn't being treated fairly because of his color. And I said, well, I'm white and you don't have anything to do with me. He said, and he put his hand on mine, he said, yeah, but I don't see color when I'm with you. He said, you treat me the same as I would anybody else. And it just, I'm very proud of the boys. Our relationship has grown, and they'll always be a part of my life.
So then they called Miss Maggie, our CASA worker. She came into our lives, and then they also got evening treatment, which was Scott Biddle. And we pretty much started working with them. They got into anger management classes with us, started talking with us, taking us out to parks, pretty much getting into our lives to get to know us, try to help us pretty much get our heads on straight so we can move forward in life and try to pass everything we went through. Well, when Jalen was out of town, I stayed in Williamsport for the first 4 years of me being in foster care. So the only time I could see Jalen was when we were either on visits with our mother, which was a rare occasion. It was probably once or twice a year, and then with Miss Maggie. So anytime she would call, that would be the only time I get to see my brother. So it was pretty much, she brought us together after foster care, and during foster care. After we got taken out of the home, the only time I got to see him was with her. So she pretty much kept us together. That's why we still have closeness now, because of her.
Anytime I have a problem, I just call Marlene because I can talk to her about anything. And she's like my second mom, so.
We're now able to interact on many other levels other than the stressful beginning that first brought us together. Now we talk about fun things, hopeful things, and that's, I think, what will sustain our friendship and our relationship.
I think the significance that CASA has is it brings to the courtroom the children's voice, and it also, the volunteers through CASA have so much more time that they can spend with the families and the children, that the perspective that they give is so much more than what we just get from the caseworkers. I mean, granted, it's also a different perspective, but we get a lot of background, a lot of extra stuff, and I think it's really helpful for the court to have kind of the whole picture of what's happening with the children and the families. I think one of the cases that has impacted me the most is in my first week on the bench doing CNY, one of my very first cases, I had a young boy who was appearing before me. He's probably about 12 years old, had some autistic traits to him. Both his parents' rights had been terminated, and we've never been able to find permanency for him. He has spent a lot of times in and out of residential treatment in different foster homes, and throughout the whole proceedings, he was sitting next to the guardian ad litem and kept raising his hand, wanting to talk and answer the questions that people were asking about him, and I kept assuring him that when we were all done, I would let him tell me anything he wanted to tell me, that I was going to let him speak last. And when we finally got to the point that he was able to speak, he told me that he wanted me to find him a family, which definitely impacted me from that point on. And not too long after that, I had a child in front of me who, when I asked him if there was anything that I could do for him, he asked me to make him a miracle. And again, another thing that has tremendously impacted me in dealing with the children and youth cases.
Well, I hope that I can look back and know that I've made a difference in some children's lives, in many children's lives in 10 years, and that more and more people will get involved with CASA, and more people will support CASA, because it is such a worthwhile organization. Boys, do you know what a CASA is, what Mommy does?
Help children and have a nice family.
You can't just say it once and let it sink in, and that is just the importance of having a CASA volunteer involved with these families and the children in particular, and helping them to have a permanent, safe home, and the impact that it can have years later with a stable community.
I think I would love to be a CASA, frankly, when I see what they do in the courtroom, and that we have so many different personalities and backgrounds of our CASA volunteers. I just think it definitely enriches their lives, kind of fills some maybe gaps. I know we have some retired people, we have people whose children are now grown, so I think that it definitely is a fulfilling thing for the volunteer.
The very exciting part about the next steps for CASA of Lycoming County is all part of a regionalization project where we are going to be joining forces with 3 other counties, that being Lycoming, Union, and Snyder counties, and we are going to become Susquehanna Valley CASA, Voices for Children. It's just a phenomenal move forward, better utilizing our finances that we have coming into us, utilizing our pool of volunteers in a much more efficient manner, and most especially being able to provide advocacy for more children throughout the Susquehanna Valley. It's a great, great step forward.